the marriage of worlds. The great palace of crystal stood above the twin suns of Aralis Prime, a world known for its endless skies and golden oceans. Thousands of alien nobles gathered in the grand hall, their eyes filled with disbelief, because their queen, the mighty ruler of the Aurelian dominion, had chosen to marry a human, a simple human, from the small blue world called Earth. The queen, tall and radiant in her silver armor, stood beside the man. He was quiet, his black uniform plain, his hands scarred but steady. His name was Elias to the aliens. He looked fragile, small, and unimpressive. They whispered among themselves, calling him the soft one, the weak consort, and the pet of the queen. But the queen had her reasons. She had seen something in the human's eyes, a calmness that felt dangerous, a silence that carried the weight of storms. Still, she told herself that he was no threat. After all, humans were new to the galactic stage. Their fleet small, their power limited, their history short. In her mind, this marriage was a symbol of mercy, a gesture of unity after years of quiet tension between Earth and her empire. The wedding took place under a dome of stars. Alien musicians played instruments made of light. Elias simply bowed his head and said the words that sealed their union. When the queen placed her hand on his, she felt warmth, not power, and for a moment she pitied him. Later that night, the court celebrated. The nobles drank luminous wine and laughed at the human's quiet behavior. Elias only smiled, sitting silently beside the queen, his gaze moving across the alien faces with calm study. The queen leaned closer and whispered, "Do you regret this union, human?" He looked at her and said softly, "Regret comes when one forgets purpose." That answer unsettled her, but she hid it behind a cold smile. The queen's generals, strong and proud warriors with forearms and eyes like molten glass, approached her throne. They bowed and said, "Your Majesty, forgive our boldness, but marrying a human brings shame to the Dominion." The queen waved her hand and replied, "Peace is built on strange stones." Yet even as she spoke, she wondered if she had made a mistake. The next morning, the news spread across the stars. The Aurelian queen had married a human from Earth. Across alien space, laughter and scorn echoed. Some called it diplomacy, others called it surrender. And on Earth, the leaders of the United Terran fleet simply watched, waiting for Elias to make his move. For Elias was not a soldier, not an ambassador. He was something far older, far quieter, a man whose sword had not been drawn in years. Because when he did, empires changed, but the queen did not know this. To her, he was still harmless. To her, he was still the quiet husband. And that was her first mistake. As the sun set that day, Elias stood on the balcony of the palace, looking down at the golden city. The wind carried the distant sound of alien laughter. He sighed and touched the small emblem hidden beneath his collar, a symbol of the Terran vanguard, the most secret order of warriors humanity had ever trained. He whispered to himself, "Weakness is what they see, but patience is the true blade." And far below, in the deep chambers of the Dominion, an alien war council was already plotting to test the human's limits. They planned to provoke him, to humiliate him in front of the queen. They did not know that their plan would awaken something that the galaxy had long forgotten. What happens when a human stops pretending to be weak? The test of weakness days passed after the royal wedding. The alien queen ruled her empire as before, sitting on her crystal throne, surrounded by her advisors and generals. Beside her, the human husband sat quietly, never raising his voice, never interrupting. The court began to grow bold, mocking him behind gentle smiles. They whispered that the queen had married a fragile creature who feared even his own shadow. One day the queen's general, Commander Thark, a towering alien with armor made of bone, stepped forward. He bowed before the queen, then glanced at Elias with a smirk. "Your Majesty," he said, "our soldiers grow restless. They whisper that your consort does not deserve to walk among warriors." The queen raised an eyebrow. "And what do you propose, Commander?" Thark grinned. "A small test for the honor of the Dominion, of course." Elias looked up slowly, his calm eyes meeting the alien's glare. "What kind of test?" he asked quietly. Thark chuckled. "A duel, harmless. Only a display of courage." The queen laughed softly. "My husband is no soldier, Commander. I will not have him injured to please your pride." But Elias stood and said, "It is fine, my queen, I accept." The hall fell silent. The aliens murmured in disbelief. A human, challenging one of the strongest warriors in the Dominion. The queen leaned forward, her voice cold. You do not need to prove yourself to them. Elias smiled faintly. Sometimes silence becomes noise if it lasts too long. That evening the duel was arranged in the great arena. Thousands gathered, alien nobles filling the seats, chanting Thark's name. The queen sat upon her throne, her heart uneasy. Elias stepped into the arena. Dressed in simple fabric, unarmed, Thark towered above him, holding a plasma spear that hummed with deadly energy. Do you yield before we begin? Thark mocked. Elias shook his head slowly. You may start when ready, the commander roared and charged, the ground trembling beneath his steps. The spear flashed toward Elias with blinding speed, but the human moved like water, calm, fluid. Stepping aside just before the strike landed, the crowd gasped. Elias's movement was quiet, too quiet, no wasted energy, no fear, only precision. Thark attacked again, faster, each blow shaking the arena floor. Elias dodged each one by a breath, his eyes unblinking. Finally, Thark thrust the spear straight toward his chest. In that moment, Elias's hand shot out faster than sight. He caught the glowing spear mid-thrust, the energy crackling in his palm. And with a single twist, he broke it in half. The crowd fell into stunned silence. The queen rose from her seat. Her heart pounding, Thark stumbled back. Disbelief in his burning eyes, Elias stepped closer, his voice calm. Strength is not in the noise you make. Then he turned and walked away, leaving the broken weapon on the floor. That night, the story of the duel spread through the Dominion like wildfire. The aliens who once mocked him now whispered with fear. Some called him a demon in human form. Others said he wielded unseen technology. The queen watched him from the shadows of her chamber, trying to understand the mystery behind his quiet strength. When she finally asked him who he truly was, he only said, "A man who learned long ago that power hides best in peace." But deep within the alien military, others were not satisfied. The Council of Warlords gathered in secret. Furious that a human had humiliated their champion, they swore to uncover his secrets, or destroy him trying. And in the darkness of the palace, Elias stood alone on the balcony. Gazing at the twin moons, he whispered softly, "They still don't understand. Weakness is the most dangerous disguise." The conspiracy in the shadows. The night was quiet over the Crystal Palace. Only the wind whispered through the tall spires, carrying the scent of alien flowers. But in the lower chambers a storm of anger brewed. The generals and warlords of the Aurelian Dominion gathered in secret, their faces twisted in rage. How can a human embarrass us so openly? One warlord hissed, "He is nothing but flesh and bone." Another shouted, yet their voices trembled, betraying fear they did not want to admit. Commander Thark, still humiliated from the duel, slammed his fist on the crystal table. "We must act," he said. "If the queen continues to protect him, he will grow bold. And then our empire will face a shame it cannot survive." The others nodded. Forming a plan, they would challenge Elias not in combat, but in cunning, in trickery. If the human fell to their scheme, the Dominion would regain its honor if he survived. Then perhaps their greatest fears would be true. Meanwhile, above, the queen paced in her private chamber. Her silver armor gleamed faintly in the moonlight. Her thoughts were tangled. She could not shake the image of Elias standing silently in the arena, catching the spear like it weighed nothing. Something in her gut warned her. Humans were not as weak as they seemed. And yet she had sworn to protect him. Could she trust him fully? Could she trust herself? Elias, unaware of the plotting below, moved through the palace gardens. His eyes scanned the stars above, his mind calm but alert. He felt the tension in the air, a subtle ripple in the energy of the palace. The humans of Earth had long taught him to read such signals, and they were warning him tonight that shadows were moving. He smiled faintly, a calm that hid a storm. Let them plot, he thought, the harder they try. The sooner they reveal themselves that night. The warlord sent a messenger to the queen, a small alien trembling as he spoke. "Your Majesty, your husband must face a trial of loyalty." The queen frowned. "What trickery is this? He has proven his courage." The messenger bowed low. "It is not courage they test, Your Majesty. It is his place among us. If he fails, the Dominion will turn against you." The queen's heart beat faster. For the first time, she wondered if her decision to marry a human had been reckless. In the shadows, Thark and the other warlords prepared their trap. A scenario designed to humiliate Elias in front of the queen and the entire court. But Elias anticipated every step. as if he had already walked through their plan 1,000 times. He moved quietly through the palace corridors unseen, listening to whispers, reading movements, understanding intentions. Even unarmed, even appearing weak, he was already 3 steps ahead. The next morning, the trial began. The queen sat on her throne, trying to hide her anxiety. The warlords brought forth a challenge, a series of tasks meant to shame him, but with every step, Elias performed with calm precision. Every trial they threw at him failed to rattle him. The humans of Earth had taught patience and observation, and it showed in every move he made. The warlords' faces twisted with disbelief. Their anger growing, the queen realized then, the whispers she had heard were true. This human was not fragile, not weak. He was a force hidden beneath the calm, a storm waiting for the right moment. As the sun rose higher, the court fell silent. Elias completed the final task without effort. The warlords had no choice but to bow before him. The queen's eyes widened in realization. Perhaps she had underestimated the danger she married, or perhaps she had found an ally stronger than any warrior in the Dominion. And in the distant stars, the human's calm voice echoed softly in her mind. Patience is the blade that cuts deepest. The first strike of the human. The palace had barely recovered from the failed schemes of the warlords. Whispers of the human's skill traveled through the halls like wildfire. The queen sat upon her throne, her heart still pounding. She could no longer deny it. Elias was no ordinary man. And yet, even as she admired him, a shadow of fear crept into her mind. Suddenly, alarms blared across the palace, a warning that no human or alien had ever heard before. The outer gates of the Crystal City were under attack. A fleet of unknown alien warships hovered above, their weapons glowing red and blue. The warlords who had once tried to humiliate Elias now scrambled to their stations, but panic had set in among the soldiers. None could comprehend how a human might stand against an organized strike of this scale. The queen turned to Elias, her voice tense. "What do we do?" He stepped forward, calm as ever, eyes scanning the fleet. "Stand back, my queen, and watch," he said. The soldiers hesitated, unsure if this human could possibly face the enemy alone. But Elias moved to the armory, not to take a weapon, but to draw a small device from his cloak. It hummed with power, ancient yet human in design. The warlords watched, confused, as Elias activated the device. A field of energy expanded outward from the palace. Invisible yet tangible, alien ships faltered. Their engines struggling against the force, one by one, they were thrown off balance, crashing into each other or retreating in disarray. The queen gasped, unable to comprehend what she was seeing. Her human husband, the one she had thought fragile, had stopped a fleet without firing a single weapon. The warlords bowed instinctively, their arrogance replaced with awe. Elias turned to the queen, his voice calm. Threats arrive often, but patience and understanding stopped them before they reached the walls. The invaders withdrew, leaving trails of smoke across the sky. The court cheered, but the queen did not move. Her mind raced. She had married a man who could change the fate of the galaxy with a thought. Later, in the private chambers, the queen asked Elias quietly, "Who are you, really?" He smiled faintly. "A human who learned that strength is often hidden, and that the greatest power comes not from weapons, but from knowing when to strike." She nodded slowly, understanding now why the warlords had feared him. Her queenly pride mixed with relief and admiration, for this human was more than an ally. He was the shield of her empire, and perhaps the one being in the galaxy who could stand against any enemy. But the victory was only temporary. From the shadows of distant stars, new observers had seen Elias's display. They whispered of Earth's hidden strength, of a human whose calm hid a storm, and already, fleets were being dispatched to test this quiet warrior. The queen knew the coming days would not be easy. Yet for the first time she felt certain, with Elias beside her, the Dominion would endure, and any who dared threaten it would face a human who was anything but weak. The Shadow Council strikes back. The palace had fallen quiet after the battle in the skies, but in the hidden chambers below, the Shadow Council gathered, their faces dark with rage. These were the warlords who had tried to humiliate Elias. Now they were determined to destroy him before his influence over the queen grew too strong. Commander Thark spoke first, his voice low and dangerous. "We cannot allow this human to remain among us. His strength and calm have shamed us all. If we act now, we can reclaim our honor and remind the queen of her place." The other council members nodded, agreeing to a secret plan. They would lure Elias into a trap, one designed to challenge not his strength but his mind and loyalty. Meanwhile, the Queen sensed the tension but could not see the full scope. She trusted Elias completely. Yet something in her instincts whispered danger. She watched him move quietly through the palace, observing, listening, always alert. Elias felt the subtle signs too. The whispers in the corridors, the slight shifts of shadow. He smiled faintly, knowing the council underestimated him again. The trap was simple in design but deadly in effect. A false alarm was sent to the Queen, claiming that the palace was under siege from an internal threat. The council hoped to draw Elias into a confined chamber, where numbers and weapons would overwhelm him. But Elias anticipated their move, stepping through the corridors with silent precision. Each shadow that moved against him was already calculated. Each guard or soldier planted by the council became an unwitting pawn in his awareness. When he reached the chamber, the council members sprang their trap. Energy nets fired from concealed walls aiming to immobilize him. Blades and spears flashed from hidden corners. Yet Elias moved like water, flowing between the attacks with a twist of his wrist. He shattered the energy nets with a swift step. He disarmed every hidden weapon. The council stared in disbelief, their cunning plan unraveling before their eyes. The Queen arrived just in time, watching her human husband stand in the center of the chamber. Calm and composed, he looked at the council, his voice steady but filled with authority. "Your shadows cannot harm me, not because I am strong, but because I see clearly and I do not fear the unseen." The council members trembled, their arrogance replaced with fear. They realized that they had misjudged him at every turn. Elias turned to the Queen, bowing slightly. "The Dominion is safe for now, but they will try again, and when they do, we must be ready together." The Queen's eyes shone with awe and understanding. This human, whom she had married thinking fragile, was a force that could protect her empire from any threat. And in that moment, she knew that no enemy in the galaxy could underestimate humanity again. Far beyond the palace walls, agents of distant empires had watched the entire confrontation. Whispers spread of a human who moved like a storm and struck with calm precision. The legend of Elias, the quiet husband of the alien queen, began to grow. And the galaxy itself would soon learn that humans were not to be taken lightly. The hidden fleet revealed. The palace had quieted after the Shadow Council's failed trap. But Elias knew the galaxy had more eyes than ever. Enemies would not rest. They had seen the human strength and would soon plan a larger assault. The Queen stood beside him, her gaze steady, trusting him completely. "Elias, what will we do if they return with fleets 10 times larger?" she asked. He smiled faintly. "Then it is time they see the true strength of Earth." That night, Elias activated a signal hidden deep in the palace. It was a call to a force the galaxy had not seen in centuries. Ships of humanity, advanced beyond imagination, cloaked in invisibility and armed with devastating weapons. The Queen watched as ghostly silhouettes appeared in orbit above Auralis Prime. Thousands of vessels, all silent, all ready. A human fleet the galaxy had underestimated. Ready to defend one man and the Queen who trusted him. The aliens in the palace whispered in awe and fear. Where did all these ships come from? Elias walked calmly among them, his voice quiet yet commanding. They have always been there, hidden, patient, waiting for the moment the galaxy forgets what humans are capable of. He turned to the Queen. They will not strike lightly, and neither will I. The Queen's heart pounded, for she understood that she had married a man who could change the fate of the stars. Above the planet, the human fleet activated, their energy shields glowing softly. Enemy scouts appeared, curious, daring, in an instant. They were met with precision strikes, neutralized without warning. The fleet moved as one, silent but unstoppable. Alien commanders watching from afar realized their mistakes. The humans were not weak, not naive, not harmless. They were an unstoppable force disguised as patience and humility. Back in the palace, Elias briefed the Queen on their strategy. We show them our strength but not our anger. We defend, we do not provoke. The galaxy must learn caution. The Queen nodded, understanding at last the depth of her husband's wisdom. And far beyond the stars, whispers spread of Earth's hidden fleet. Of a human who had mastered patience and surprise. Of a queen who had chosen wisely. And of a galaxy that was about to realize that underestimating humanity was a fatal mistake. In the shadows, enemy fleets prepared. They would strike. They would test humanity's might. But Elias had already anticipated every move, every path, every strike, every deception, and he smiled, calm as always. For the universe was about to learn the cost of dismissing a human, and the alien queen would witness her husband not as harmless, but as the storm the galaxy could never ignore, the human storm the galaxy held its breath. Enemy fleets gathered at the edge of known space, their numbers vast, their weapons deadly. But Elias stood on the bridge of the flagship, calm and composed, the alien queen beside him, her eyes wide with awe and trust. "They think they can intimidate us," he said softly. "They do not understand what humanity is capable of." The first wave struck. A barrage of energy weapons designed to overwhelm. The human fleet moved like shadows, cloaked and precise. Elias directed them with gestures almost imperceptible. Ships shifted, dodged, and struck back simultaneously. Every enemy attack was met with calculated counter. Every advance was neutralized before it could threaten the planet. The Queen watched in amazement as Elias orchestrated the battle. His mind moved faster than any alien could follow. Patterns, weaknesses, strategies, every strike was anticipated. Enemies who had mocked humans now fell silent. Their fleets torn apart not by brute force alone, but by the genius of one man and the discipline of his people. From the enemy command ship, their leader shouted in rage, "This is impossible. One human cannot control an entire fleet." Elias's calm voice carried through the communications. Humans have always survived by seeing what others cannot, by striking where they least expect it, by waiting until the perfect moment. Then with a signal unseen, the entire human fleet converged in a single, unstoppable storm. Alien ships were disarmed, immobilized or forced to retreat. The galaxy had never seen such coordination, such precision, such power. Back on Oralis Prime, the Queen rose from her throne, her armor gleaming in the sunlight. She turned to Elias, realization dawning. The man she had thought fragile, the human she had married as a gesture of peace, was the embodiment of Earth's strength and cunning, a force no empire could ignore, and the warlords who had once plotted against him bowed. Not in defiance, but in respect, Elias looked at the Queen, his expression calm yet commanding. "The galaxy will test us again, but now they know humanity is not weak, and anyone who underestimates us will regret it." The Queen smiled, finally understanding her choice was right. Her husband was more than a protector. He was a revelation. As the sun set over the twin oceans of Oralis Prime, the alien fleets retreated, whispers of Earth's hidden might spreading across star systems. The legend of the human husband of the alien queen began, and the galaxy itself would never again mistake the quiet calm of a human for weakness, for humanity had revealed its storm, and the alien queen knew that beside her stood the most powerful force the galaxy had ever witnessed, calm and patient and utterly unstoppable.